KTBC Television News now presents a special program on today's mass murder in the capital city. Here is KTBC Television News Editor Neil Spells.
Good evening. One of history's worst mass murders occurred here in Austin today. By official count tonight, 49 persons were hit by gunfire. There are 16 dead and 33 injured. It started last night when a man reportedly killed his wife and his mother. That same man apparently rounded up an arsenal and supplies this morning and then went to the observation deck of the University of Texas Tower. It was then that terror rained down from the tower.
Concern. I don't quite understand what is compelling me to type this note. I've been having terrible fears and violent impulses. I've had tremendous headaches. I've been going to a psychiatrist, and I've come to the conclusion that the world is not worth living in. The time has come for me to face my problems, to fight them out alone. 1:30 a.m., mother already dead. 3 a.m., wife dead.
On August 1st of 1966, Charles Joseph Whitman ascended the University of Texas Tower and shot and killed 14 people, also injuring 31 others. He was born on July 24th of 1941 in his hometown of Lake Worth, Florida, and he would be raised by Charles A. Whitman and Margaret Whitman. He would also grow up with his two younger brothers, Patrick and John Whitman. Charles Whitman and his brothers would be trained on the use of guns and other weapons by their father, Charles A. Whitman. Unfortunately, Charles, his brother, and his mother would be tormented and sometimes beaten by his father with his cruel nature. Charlie would always ignore it and would soon later join the U.S. Marines after his 18th birthday in an attempt to get away from home.
Do you belong here, in these ranks of Marines? Marines aren't born into the Corps. Every one has come out of another, different kind of life.
While Charlie was pleased with his time away from home, he began to suffer from a mental illness and began to build stress from his daily training that affected him day after day. It would only be a couple months until he would apply to the University of Texas. He would also soon later meet the love of his life, Kathy Leisner. Kathy Leisner was born on July 12th of 1943 in Needville, Texas. She was also planning to attend the University of Texas to achieve her bachelor's degree in teaching so she could become a biology teacher. She was 2 years younger than Charlie and graduated under the class of 1957 and ranked as the top of her class. Around February of 1962, Charlie and Kathy would meet and fall in love and date for 6 months until they announced their marriage in the summer of that same year in Kathy's hometown of Needville. From 1962 to 1966, Charlie's mental illness would once again return to cause him stress and have acute fits of anger that would sometimes be taken out on Kathy. This would later relate to how his father's cruel nature was similar to him on beating his wife. In his time of mental illness, Charlie would see many therapists and doctors but would unfortunately receive no help. He also gained stress when his parents divorced and made Charlie believe that he was the main reason of the divorce. With this in mind, Whitman would soon later realize that it was time to end it all by killing himself and others. He would begin to plan one of the worst massacres by ascending to the University of Texas observation deck and using a Remington 700 to shoot at random civilians. After the divorce, Margaret Whitman was living close by to where Charles and his wife were living at their 906 Jewel house in Austin. Charlie began to believe that if he killed his mother, he would release her from the sufferings that his father caused. His mother's last day on earth would be till July 31st until she was murdered. At 1 a.m. on August 1st in 1966, Whitman arrived at his mother's house and shot her with a .38 caliber revolver, and then would proceed to brutally stab her in the chest with a dagger. To make sure no one would discover the body before he carried his last actions of violence, he placed a note stating, "My mother is not feeling well. She has decided to sleep in today. Please do not disturb her." After leaving his mother's house, Charlie would proceed home to kill his wife. The reason that Whitman would kill his wife was to spare her from the embarrassment coming from the massacre that would take place later that day. At 3 a.m., just 2 hours after Whitman had killed his own mother, Kathy Leisner Whitman would be stabbed to death in her sleep and hidden under some bedsheets by Whitman. After killing his wife, he would then use a typewriter to describe that if he died, he would be cremated after an autopsy. Later on that morning, Charles Whitman would leave his Austin home to ascend the University of Texas Tower. He would make a stop to pick up ammo and supplies such as the Remington 700 and a double-barrel shotgun. Whitman would also dress in khaki attire and use a red bandana to prevent sweat from distracting his shooting. When Whitman had reached the top of the tower, he had positioned the Remington down at the students on campus and began to fire around 11:50 a.m. The shooting would last up to 1 hour and 25 minutes. Over 31 people were shot and 14 were killed instantly by the gunfire. Ambulances unfortunately could not reach some of the injured students and civilians as they were in range to Whitman's gunfire. It would only be a matter of moments until Whitman would take his last shot. The Austin Police Department, along with the Secret Service, the Army, and off-duty police officer Ramiro Martinez would be alerted and respond to the scene. Ramiro Martinez, along with Houston McCoy and other officers, would ascend the tower to execute Charles Whitman. When the two officers managed to approach and attempt to detain Whitman, he noticed them and began to fire at them using his .38 caliber revolver. Officer Ramiro Martinez shot and killed Whitman after his failed attempt of detaining him. He was shot in the head and had multiple gunshots to the chest. Investigators would soon later find the bodies of Kathy Leisner and Margaret Whitman and would raise the death toll up to 33. They would also find in Charlie's bedroom a set of notes and his instructions which would state that he would request for an autopsy. Authorities would soon later find out that Charles Joseph Whitman's stress would all originate from a tumor that was located from inside his brain. This would show why he would go on to murder his wife and mother and shoot down 31 other people on August 1st of 1966. Today, colleges and other schools around America have taken note of the events on August 1st and have taken action to prevent these kinds of situations.